everybody, and welcome to today's live podcast episode with me, Laura Muse. Today I've got two incredible guys who have really shaken up the property development world in quite a short period of time. In their first year of business, they won a prestigious Deal of the Year award, and I'm delighted to welcome Andy Cook and Lloyd Girardi.
Hello, yeah. How you doing, Laura?
I'm good, are you?
Yeah, we're really good, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, good.
So, obviously, if people don't know who you are, where the hell have they been? You have completely stormed the property development world, really creating a movement of people. You've got backgrounds in property prior to setting up WHITEBOX, that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
To a degree, yeah.
So Andy, you obviously had a very successful construction company, and Lloyd, you worked for Taylor Wimpey. So at what point were you obviously doing them roles, and then how did WHITEBOX come around? What was the trigger to do that, set that up?
Okay, well, if I start, I'll sort of tell you where I started from, and then Lloyd can give you his bit of background, and then we'll tell you how that turned into WHITEBOX. Cool. But yeah, so you say that, well, you described that very generously as a very successful building company, whatever. But, you know, that started in 2007, and really that was just me on my own. And it was, you know, I was a sole trader out there as a carpenter, but a carpenter that I wasn't really in the building trade as such. I was working, doing sort of set building and work for audio visual companies around hotels and things like that. So not necessarily in traditionally in the building industry, but then in 2007 I left that job quite abruptly, and I set up Redbox Developments that is now. Okay. But as I say, it was literally just me in a car originally, then a van, and just a bit of a yes man, just said yes to anything that came along, even though I'd probably never done it before, doing kitchens, bathrooms, and anything that came along really. And then I did that for a couple of years. I got sort of quite proficient at that, and then I decided to go into the sort of bigger building jobs, or you know, the extensions and all that kind of thing. That was a big step for me though, because I'd never really sort of managed teams of other subcontractors and all that kind of thing, and sort of took on that role. But yeah, we started doing a lot of those, getting better at those. And then in 2012 I built my first house, which actually I'm sitting in now. It was our own house as a self-build. But that was the first house I ever built. And then we went back to doing extensions and things again. And by this time we were kind of building big houses on the side of houses, if you like, but still extensions essentially. And then in very, very late 2013 to start 2014, I'd sort of met Lloyd by now. He'd started going out with my cousin a couple of years beforehand, and sort of seen him at, like, you know, family dues and things like that. And yeah, he approached me about wanting to set his own business up, and sort of that led us looking into property really. But yeah, Lloyd, you give us a bit of background on where you'd come from before that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know, Laura, you mentioned about Taylor Wimpey is kind of who I worked for, but that was 2006. I worked for them, and it was for about 6 to 9 months.
Right.
It was the first proper job I suppose I had. After I came back from traveling, so I went to New Zealand, Australia, did that. My mum worked for Taylor Wimpey at the time, so she got me a job in the sales show homes.
Oh yeah.
So it was nothing to do with the build side. I haven't got a clue how to build a house, and I haven't got any intentions of learning how to build a house either. But yeah, for me, I worked there for, I'd say, 6 to 9 months. Then I went to go and work for the mortgage broker that was associated with Taylor Wimpey at the time. Okay. Went to them for, again, probably 9 months, and that was 2007. And obviously what we didn't know at that time is there was going to be a massive recession. But I got made redundant just before that. So kind of in hindsight is quite, I'd say, fortunate really, but everything happens for a reason. But I then went to go and work for a LED company or lighting company, in a sales job. And I worked there for, again, 3 years. And then it was sort of 2012, 13, I just really, the idea of starting a business again kind of emerged. And I've always wanted a business of my own, but I've always worked for other people at that time. Yeah. And it wasn't until 2013 that it really came back, that whole drive of starting a business. And it was only, well, it was unfortunately, my dad passed away in November 2013, and it was kind of that moment for me. I thought, you know, why am I not doing what I've always wanted to do? And it took a moment like that to actually give me a bit of a life lesson and life realization.
Yeah.
So I just helped Andy with his house by installing the lights or designing the lights for his house.
Yeah.
So I approached Andy and said, look, I want to start a business. You've got WHITEBOX. How did you start WHITEBOX? How did you actually get going and start a business? Because I want to start a business. And obviously my dad just sort of passed away. I just asked him how to start, basically, and he gave me a few pointers. But it was the same time that he was looking at property investing.
Right.
So he had 2 free tickets to a property seminar. He said, look, you want to start a business? I'm looking at investing. Maybe it's something we could look at together. And kind of just went from there and attended the 3-day event. And I suppose the rest from there is history. But that's kind of how it started for us.
I can completely relate to what you said about your dad, and I am sorry to hear that, because I lost my mum, and up until that point I'd always been employed, and it was that life-changing event, and me and my husband were like, what are we doing? We need to change we need to get out of this rat race and create something for ourselves. So it's funny sometimes how these massive life-changing events just trigger something in your brain and put you on a completely different path. Just a shame sometimes that they have to happen to do it.
Yeah, and obviously we start training people, and we trained a lot of people now. And the reason I like to try and get them to do what I've wanted to do for a long time is because, like, my dad can never see what I've done. And it's kind of it's not a regret that I didn't start earlier, but he was the one that helped me start it, and I can't show him how we've done anything or what we've done. So if I can help other people start before a moment like that, hopefully nothing like that happens to people, but if it does, I don't want that to be the driver that thinks, you know, I'll start now, because you can start anytime. You can start now without anything like that happening.
No, I agree. So did you expect this to happen? WHITEBOX is huge in the development world. You've got so many people, like so many cheerleaders, should we say, you know, you've got a massive following of people. Did you ever expect this to happen? Was this the plan, or has this organically evolved?
No,
it was never the plan.
It's just evolved. We just wanted to get into property. We didn't know, you know, when we attended that first 3 days that Lloyd mentioned there, and it sort of highlighted 7 or 8 different ways that you could work in property, if you like, as a property investor. And, you know, we didn't even know any of those things existed in the end of 2013, start of 2014. And it was just an education to us from the start. But yeah, we didn't have a vision of any of this. We just sort of wanted to, we initially looked at doing a few single buy to lets. To us at the time, it was if you had a HMO, you're a demigod. It was that was a really advanced strategy to us. And, you know, if you had a few HMOs, you really must be going somewhere. And then the heady heights of maybe doing a commercial conversion, but that was seen as you had to be really experienced to do a commercial conversion in those days. No one had really talked about serviced accommodation and all of those things. And, you know, it is only, I suppose, 5, maybe 6 years ago. 6 years ago now. But a lot's happened in that 6 years, and, you know, we've gone through an amazing journey ourselves through obviously property and also sort of self-development and you know, our own personal routines and things like that. And but you can't do it all in one go. You have to go through. You know, you tackle the first few things, make a few mistakes the first year, and then that evolves into something else the second year, and then you learn a little bit more the third year, and, you know, and we've pretty much done most of the strategies now, haven't we, Lloyd?
Yeah, we've certainly tried a few.
Yeah.
So what was the point that you thought new builds are for you?
Pretty much straight away. I know Andy sort of went through that. But we took everything in. I think that's the most important thing. We taught ourselves or got educated on kind of what's out there. And we took everything on board and thought, oh, the principles they're saying and they're talking to us about, it seems simple. It seems like you can borrow money from people, simple. You can go out and find property, simple. And we thought, well, Andy had found a plot of land in Northampton that that was on Rightmove, but obviously there's no deals on Rightmove, is there? But we found this one deal on Rightmove, and it was going to auction on the 19th of February 2014. We did the training on January 2014, at the end of January, so it's like literally 3 weeks until it's auction.
That's brilliant.
And me and Andy just basically we literally looked at this deal and thought, well, why can't we do this deal? And what the deal was a plot of land in Northampton, and it had lapse planning for 8 houses. Obviously, Andy being sort of in construction, having construction business, knew how to build a house, one house at least anyway, because he just built his own house. But we kind of looked at it, and for 3 weeks, I pretty much was around Andy's house constantly, around his dining room table, and we're analysing this one deal, thinking, well, why can't we do it? What's kind of stopping us? And there's a YouTube video actually explaining that one moment of or that 3 weeks of how do we do this deal, what's stopping us doing this deal. And it was from there really, we just thought, well, nothing really should stop us. Right? We looked at the deal, there was about £270,000 profit in it at that point. And even at that, we said, well, even if, let's say we overspend by 220 grand and there's 50 grand left in the deal, are we still prepared together to go through with it and only make 50 grand? And at the time I was only earning 16 grand a year. So I was like, well, yeah, it's more than what I'm earning. So I am, but obviously the principle of it is, are we prepared to go for a deal and not get what we expected at the beginning? And we both said, yeah, we are. Even to the point of, if it makes nothing and we just kind of get out what we put in, are we still prepared to do it? And we said, yeah. So if we're at that point, we're adamant on making 20-25%, we probably wouldn't have done it. But because we were open to saying, well, yeah, things might go wrong, let's just do it, let's see how it happens. I think that's what the mentality helped us get started. And I think also we were quite naive at that point in terms of developments. We didn't know all the things that could go wrong or could happen, and we couldn't talk ourselves out of the deal. Whereas a lot of people now know, or they think about the deal too much and they analyze it too much and they just talk themselves out of it, when you don't know what's going to happen unless you go and do it.
So that was obviously your first deal. Can you tell me a little bit about a deal that you've had that's been really tough, really difficult, a lot of obstacles to overcome?
Right, that could be any deal. I think
Wouldn't that stick out more than the rest?
No, but I think the principle of that, I would like to cover that, because Lloyd just said there that a lot of people talk themselves out. You can talk yourselves out of any deal. There's always a reason why you shouldn't do it, and if you sit there chewing the figures enough, you will find a reason not to do it. And in fact, that first one, if we use that first one as a case study, we made, I wouldn't say every mistake in the book, but we made plenty of them in there, and we still came out of it. And Lloyd just mentioned there that we had anticipated £270,000 profit on that one, but we were a bit naive. We're the first ones to tell you that, and we probably even knew that at the time. But we had the guts to go out there and do it, and to we didn't know all the hurdles we would hit, but we kind of knew that whatever we hit, we would get over, under, or around, and that's what we did. And we did have things stolen from site. We did overrun a little bit on time. We did, have to put security. There's loads of things. We forgot to tell BT that and didn't ever have any infrastructure put in for BT. So it took 6 months to get Wi-Fi for all of our tenants. Which obviously Lloyd was managing at the time. That was a major hassle for him, because they couldn't have any kind of Wi-Fi or internet for 6 months while we waited for the connection. There's all sorts of stuff like that. But the point is that we did do it, and we did get to it. And actually, it didn't make £270,000 profit. It cleared 370 or whatever in the end. So more than we thought. It wasn't the disaster that we'd expected it might be. And we did show people around that site. And one of the guys we trained maybe 2 years later, he sat in our training room, and we used that as an example, because obviously it's a live site that we'd done. And he sat there and he was just like, "Oh, I can't believe it." He said, I was actually looking at that site. We bought it from auction. He said, before it went to auction, I had that deal. I had an offer accepted. I was buying it, and I pulled out at the last minute. And we said, "Why did you pull out?" And he said, "Because it was garages, by the way, an old set of like derelict garages in the middle of town." He said, "It was like hard standing ground, and I couldn't work out how I was going to do the drainage, and it was going to be a big problem, and I could see it going over budget, and not going to make any money because of this drainage. He said, how did you solve all the drainage problems? I said, we didn't have any drainage problems. We didn't know either at the start how we were going to solve them, but we went and did it. And I'm not trying to be blasé with that, but we went and did it, and we overcame those fears. And he said, I wish I'd have done that one now. And then we showed him a deal that later on in the day, we showed him a deal that we just secured in Milton Keynes, and we're actually developing now. And he said, you won't believe this. He said, I had that one as well, and the point is he was talking himself out of deals. And then we showed him how to overcome that hurdle. And now he's doing loads of developments and whatever. But the point being, I suppose you can talk yourself out of anything if you sort of look at it for long enough. It's very important to do due diligence. I'm certainly not saying it's not, but, we've certainly learned now, and the people we teach, that if, we educate them, the things they should be looking out for, and also give them the confidence to be able to, Lloyd's, in fact, one of our masterminders is termed a phrase OSM. Lloyd, what does that mean?
Oh shit moment.
I like that.
Okay, which is it's a good moment to have. It's a good point to have.
We've got a few of them on ours.
Yeah. Oh, you get them, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. It's like, oh shit, I've just had an offer accepted. What do I do? And it's that kind of, everyone will have them.
Yeah.
But yeah, he coined the phrase, and he messaged me saying, I've just had an OSM, and I was like, OSM, like, are we not? Do we not know something in development? He said, no, I've had a no shit moment. I was like, oh yeah, I get it. Love it.
It's the moment when it goes from theory to actual reality. You get the offer accepted. You've got the call with the investor, and he's really interested, and it's oh shit, now I've got to do something about it. Sorry, carry on.
No, I mean, we had a shit moment yesterday. With all the bad wind we've had over the weekend, they built the gable wall and it's cracked, so we're going to have to take it down and redo it. Shit moment.
Yeah,
It's what it is.
I had a similar situation. My wife's cucumber plant broke in the wind yesterday as well.
I'm feeling for you, brother.
Yeah.
So obviously we've just gone through lockdown. The property market has reopened. What challenges do you see property developers having over the next 6 to 12 months, if not longer?
I think rather than the challenge, well, there's a few challenges that will happen. Obviously, some in terms of the market potentially dropping. I say potentially because we don't know yet, but we can expect maybe 10-15% as a sort of theory. But if we're basing our end values on the theory, then in the long run, it's not going to challenge us too much if we're underestimating now. So it's always worth knowing what potential challenges there will be and how you can overcome them at this point. But I think there's more opportunities at this time than potential challenges.
Yeah.
And I think it is good, like I say, it's good to think of the challenges and overcome them. So before going into the opportunities, I think obviously surveying is a challenge at the moment. There's even RICS have put in a statement to say that values, just be careful on what you're valuing, which lenders then interpret, and they might not give you the full amount, or they might not even give you any. So it's kind of, that's a bit of an uncertainty at this time. But as you say, it is reopening, it is relaxing a little bit more. Lenders are lending again. Yeah. Some lenders have dropped the loan to values, but some have kept them at 75-80% sometimes. So there is, yeah, with kind of the uncertainty, there is opportunity. And I think people do stop, and those that stop gives you more. Yeah, there's more for you to go for, really.
In regards to end values, obviously people who are midway through a build, or if the property prices do drop in 6-12 months when the projects are finished, do you guys kind of factor buffers into your figures if that happens? Like what do you typically kind of work on? Is it a percentage per property, or what do you guys do?
We always teach to not overestimate the GDV, so the gross development value, basically.
Yeah.
Never expect it to be a premium. Although we're building new builds, there is a premium as such, which no one really talks about, but we don't discuss that. We never train that or teach that. We always underestimate the end values based on sold prices, and then maybe knock a little bit more off as well, just in case it does drop. So we're already building that buffer in at the beginning, and we're not going to win every site because we are cautious in that sense. I would never teach someone just to go out and yeah, go, if you expect 10% premium, go for it and you'll be fine. Because there might be always that down value. And I think for the last 2 or 3 years, we've expected property prices to come down because they were going up and up. So we'd always thought, well, there's got to be a point where it stops. So if that is in 18 months time, we want to be predicting that now.
Yeah.
So we've estimated that already within our figures, and going forward, we're looking, okay, they might drop 10-15%. But the opportunities are that people probably will sell at 10-15% lower because they need the money in the finance right now.
What about things like land contamination? Because that can make a massive impact on a build. If you find contaminated land, you've got to clear the site. What do you do to kind of safeguard yourselves against that on projects that you're working on?
So look, there's always going to be a cost around things like that with development. So we factor in right from the start. Even in our initial appraisals, we put in like natural contingencies, we call them. So if it's a really early evaluation of a site and we haven't had all the surveys done and all of those things that we will get obviously before we get onto and put a spade in the ground on a site, if you like. But if it's an early, we'll do things like we'll allow for all of our lending from day one, so as that we know we've got an extra buffer, if you like, because obviously when we draw down, if we've got £1 million facility, we're not going to draw £1 million down on day one. We're going to do it in stages and tranches. So in an early evaluation, we'll perhaps allow for all of that to be day one, so we know we've got sort of some money in the pot, if you like. So when something comes up, because something will come up, then we know we've got money in there. And then once we get a deal accepted, then we'll start commissioning all the surveys to work out what those things are and start allocating the build cost against it. But the fact is, and we've done it, we've been around for a few years now. We've done things the right way and we've done things the wrong way. There was a site specifically where we did it the other way around, and we commissioned the surveys. We got the valuations on a deal that we'd agreed but hadn't secured yet, and it was for 46 flats in Northampton. And once we'd paid 20 grand out on all of these surveys and things like that to put a line in all of the spreadsheets to make sure that everything was allowed for, the guy went and sold it to someone else because we hadn't actually secured the deal properly at that point. So now the way we do it now is we will secure the deal on a subject to planning or subject to survey basis on those kind of figures where we've allowed what we know at that point and a bit of contingency here, there and everywhere. Then once we get it on a secured on that basis, we know that nobody else can whip it from under us, then we'll invest into those surveys and making sure that we've got that. But that you're never going to cover every base, and that's why we put the contingencies in there. But the good thing with developments is if you're a single buy to let investor and a boiler goes down, that could be all your profit for a year, couldn't it? It can wipe everything out if an unsuspected thing happens like that. The good thing with development is that we'll be aiming for at least 25%. 20 is an absolute minimum. If it slips a little bit, you've got that as profit. And if you're building 10 houses and you've got a £2.5 million GDV, then there's a good chunk of money in there as profit. So if you do get an unforeseen, like a contamination or something like that, then you've got a bit of buffer in there, which you're not into negative straight away. You've got a bit of buffer in there. Obviously, specifically, you mentioned contamination there. There is land contamination relief as well. It doesn't mean you haven't got to pay for it sometimes, but you can get it against your tax relief at the back end, and you can actually get contamination relief is 150% of what you spend. So it can actually be, if you can understand that fully and make that, you can actually solve problems on sites that other people don't know how to solve and make a site work what other people can't make work. So it's about education and knowledge around it.
No, definitely. What about overvalues? So obviously a lot of owners of pieces of land overvalue it. Commercial agents certainly overvalue plots of land. How do you overcome that? And do you think the tide is turning and it's going to come back potentially in our favour?
Oh, definitely. I think with land, for some reason, there seems to be a magic. It's a magic price and it's worth $1 million. I don't know why I use dollars, but it's basically agents and vendors. They think they've got this plot of land and they do think it's worth loads. And when you do the numbers, it's only worth what you can pay for it. And it's all in the calculations and the figures backwards. So if you can get 10 houses on it worth £1 million end value for all 10, so they're 100 grand each, the build costs are maybe 500. You've got 500 grand less, or in fact you've got profit to make first, so you've got GDV of 1 million, take off 25% profit, which is 250,000, because you can't do a deal without making profit either. Then you've got build costs of 500,000, so you've basically got 250 grand left, and that is to include your interest costs, your purchase for land and things in there. So you might end up paying 200 grand for the site. That site is only worth 200 grand because you've got the build, which you got to build something to make it worth something. You've got the end value of 1 million. You can't make it more than that or less than that. Well, you can make it less, but and the profit is the only thing you could change, but you don't want to do things for less than 20% profit. So that land is worth 250 grand.
Lloyd, there's a much easier way of doing that. You're making that really complicated because there's an agent who told me the other day that third. You do third for your profit, third for your build cost, third, and that works every time. All agents talk about it. It must be true. It must be true.
I heard you talk about this the other day. I was laughing.
What a load of bollocks.
Anyone listening right now, do not listen to Andy.
That's how they do it, isn't it? You know, we laugh about it, but agents, you know, people trust an agent because, oh, well, they're an agent. They must know what they're talking about. But, you know, they're not used, you know, there's so many agents you go and speak to about land, and you can see it plain as day. They get a GDV, gross development value, of what the house will be worth, and they just split it third, and that's how. And we go in and teach them the right way to do it, and they're like, oh, right, you know, it just doesn't stack up at all. You know, maybe in the 60s for a one house build with a local builder or something like that, it worked once, and then that's it forever.
Sometimes you can actually work the figures back and see that they've done it on a third, and you're like, it just doesn't work like that. But the way we go about and teach people how to do it is how to actually put a compelling offer forward. So even if they've got no build experience or no development experience at all, the way that we teach people how to offer makes them very compelling, and that 9 times out of 10 they either get the deal or they get given other deals because of that one pack.
Yeah. So we spoke about obviously challenges. So what opportunities do you guys see in the coming months?
I think that if you look at obviously we've gone through a bit of a tough time at the moment, and this all came across us really quickly. You know, nobody had a year to plan for this. Nobody knew that it was going to come from 6 months away even. And, you know, if I look at my own experience with it, within a pretty much a week of realizing how serious this was going to be, then we were in lockdown. You know, I didn't have a lot of foresight about it. I don't really watch the news, to be honest, and all that kind of thing. I find it quite negative. And, you know, I think specifically where we're at now, we've just had that report with the Cummins guy who's gone up the country and whatever, and everyone has just talked about that for like the last 2 days. Absolutely, you know, it's just an absolute waste of time in my eyes. I don't know. That's a prime example of why I don't watch the news, because it's just recycled and doesn't move forward. So this came across as really quickly, and, you know, it took a lot of people by surprise. But I think that, you know, we're in a bit of more of a positive spin out the back end of it now, and I think it's really refreshing to see, and it's pleasing that the government is really backing the housing industry and the property market. It's been they've obviously highlighted it as a key driver for helping the economy recover from this. I think that some of the sort of funds that they've put in with the coronavirus business interruption loan and the bounce back loans and the furlough scheme, absolutely fantastic. To do that for such an amount of people and different employments so quickly, I found phenomenal. And, you know, that's helped a lot of businesses. As Lloyd said, there's a lot of opportunity come out of it. But I think, you know, for me, as I said, I started WHITEBOX in 2007. And, you know, you didn't know that was going to be a massive recession for the next probably 5 or 6 years. And a lot of people have said to me in the past that, you know, how did you start a building company up at the start of a recession like that? And, you know, it was just normal to me. I didn't realize it was any different to anything else. And I've reflected on that a lot over the years. And I think if I'd have started it up 3 or 4 years earlier, when times were really good and it was really easy to make money, and, you know, you end up with a fleet of vans and big offices and staff that you probably don't need, and then you hit 2007, that's when you hit a problem. actually starting in 2007, 2008, you run a business in quite a lean manner because you can't afford to do it any other way, and you get taught the right lessons in business right from the start. And that's the way I would see coming off this as well, that there will be opportunities with land, there will be people who need to release cash and capital who couldn't do it before, so there will be affordable plots of land and offices. People have learned how to work on Zoom and teams at home, so they perhaps won't need big offices like they did before, so that will all filter through as well. And I think that it's an opportunity for people to maybe reflect and simplify things a little bit more and not get so complicated and have all those material things around them that they probably didn't need in the first place, and just sort of boil it back to basics a little bit and start. And property is about foundations. Build a big strong foundation in your businesses and your developments, and start from the bottom up. And I see this as if you've managed to survive this long, then this is a great opportunity to be able to come out the back of it, I think.
So obviously you guys have got the Land Sourcing Academy. Could you share with people who are watching or listening how because there's 9 ways I've heard Lloyd talk about to source land. Would you mind running through them 9, not in detail obviously, and then maybe just kind of give us a bit more detail around one that people could do from the home, like starting now?
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of lockdown for us, forced us to bring out our online education. I know a lot of people that were educators and were doing face-to-face classroom went online, which is kind of the only thing you could have done at that point. But we've been talking about this for probably 2 years, but because we love the face-to-face interaction with people and meeting people, we never did it. So it kind of forced us to do something. And the one thing that we thought there's going to be massive opportunities coming up is land and commercial deals. We kind of predicted and saw that was going to happen very early on. And I sort of created the Land Sourcing Academy on the back of it. And in fairness, I didn't know what it was going to be. I just knew that we knew how to source land and find deals and teach people how to do it. And what I wanted to do was, I could see that we were going to be in lockdown for a while. I could see that a lot of people are going to be locked in their own houses. And the only thing they could have done is jumped on a computer and found opportunities that way. So what I wanted to do was create an academy which was 8 weeks long. That was going to be every Sunday. I would be delivering the training and teaching people how to find land and opportunities. And that started pretty much, I think it was the 28th of March.
You know what I'm going to do with my Sunday evenings now, Lloyd.
Yeah, I know. It was awesome. But we started on the 28th of March, and every week, just step by step, I was teaching people how to go out and find deals. But what that was doing was recording the modules to now be evergreen going forward. So anyone listening to this now can start that training now and have the 9 weeks. I said 8 weeks. It's actually 9 weeks. So I added a bonus week at the end. So it's now a 9-week training academy that all the videos have been done. They've been filmed, but I did it live to show people as well how to do it. And the opportunities that have come out of that is there are going to be people that need money at this point. Andy mentioned that there's businesses that suddenly we've gone from flying to not being able to do anything, and probably will, or have kind of gone into liquidation and maybe dissolved at this point. So there are people that potentially will require funds. The businesses that were running probably were sat on equity or were sat on assets like property. So for us to go in and buy those property or the units only helps us as developers, but it helps the people that were selling the units or owned the units get money and become a bit liquid now, because I think a lot of people will realise that they do need to be a bit liquid and have some cash lying around for anything like this to happen in the future. So for us to come in, I think there will be opportunities there. In terms of offices, well, we've all been working from home for 8 weeks, 10 weeks. I think there will be businesses as well that realise they don't need the overhead of an office. So there will be offices that are available to convert. And at the time of this recording, we are still able to do permitted development, converting offices into residential units. Yeah. So there could be a good opportunity there as well. You talked about the 9 ways to find land. There's, just to highlight them, there's websites which you can do from the comfort of your own home. That's Rightmove, Zoopla, things like that. the ways we taught, and the biggest way that I think a lot of people can do is the Google Map search. And you could be anywhere in the world, looking anywhere in the world. And the beauty that you've got with Google is they do aerial view and street view. So you're as good as Google is updated as well. So if it's out of date, then unless you're driving around the town and the city, you can't actually see what's been built. But there's kind of, when you know what you're looking for, it's very easy to spot and identify plots of land that way. There's auctions, word of mouth, driving around, which at the moment we can't do, but when we can get out and drive around or walk or cycle. There's sources, so people that are finding deals and selling them on, architects, builders, solicitors, those kind of people as well. So there are plenty of opportunities out there. It's just being active and finding them. They're never going to come to you if you just sit on your ass and do nothing. Got to go out and find something.
I know my doc mail account's through the roof.
Yeah.
After that academy we've just done.
That's the thing, we've got all these tools to help us. Like DocMail is sending a letter without even leaving your chair.
I love DocMail.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Obviously, you guys have seen a lot of people wanting to get into development, maybe haven't achieved that for one thing or another, and people who have been massively successful. Do you believe there's a certain type of person that can succeed in development, or do you think people can condition themselves to do it? Because it's not easy. It can be pretty tough.
Yeah, I personally think anyone can do developments, but I don't think it is for everyone.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is the conditioning. Like people that maybe as soon as there's a challenge, they give up. Developments is not for them. You will face challenges. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough, and we're the first ones to tell you that it's not the easiest strategy to do, but it's very rewarding. So those that we've seen have been successful have gone through the challenges, and we've helped a lot of them through those challenges. That's kind of what we offer, the mentoring and support. So we help them through those challenges, and we get over the challenge and hit the next one. I know Nick, our project manager, he was talking about developments as being a hurdle race where you come up with a hurdle and you've got to get over it, then you come to the next one, you've got to get over it. It's very much like that. One, you might clatter through it, but you still get through it. So anyone can do it. The way we teach people is very step by step, and we try and teach it in a way that is easy to understand. But at the end of the day, you're never going to sort of become a developer unless you actually go out and try it. So you can learn everything on the internet. You can learn everything we teach. But if you don't go and actually put it into practice, you're never going to find out. But putting it into practice, be wary, because you will face a challenge. And obviously that's why we created the Mastermind Support Program, to help people through those challenges, because if we can get through them together, we can help each other, and at the end we can, there's a reward for our students and mentees as well.
I think just to add to that as well, from my point of view, I think that what we see is it's not always the people that you think are going to be really successful are the ones who are successful. And, you know, our challengers, mentors and teachers of developments is like any other subject, is, you know, we have to mold the way we teach things around that person. And, you know, to sort of talk about a couple of demographics, I suppose, you know, you'll get, you could get someone who's come from the corporate world and they're used to, you know, analysing everything, going through their spreadsheets and, you know, absolutely going through every detail. And they might sort of overthink things and get in their own way and, you know, struggle to sort of pull the trigger when they find the right deal and all those kind of things, because they need every box to be ticked, if you like. And sometimes they halt themselves up. So sometimes we have to sort of declutter that for them and give them the confidence and the mindset to, you know, and absolutely look through everything with them to give them the confidence to actually make the offer or go through with the development. But it doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means that they need that support in that way. Whereas on the flip side of that, we might see someone who's come up through the trades and, you know, maybe just, you know, maybe they've, like myself, a carpenter or a bricklayer or, you know, a plumber or something like that. And they won't overthink it. They won't try and think, you know, 100 steps down the road of what's going to hit them. They just see what's in front of them, and they'll take that challenge on and solve that challenge and hit it head on. And then they'll literally come to us and say, right, what's next? and they'll come to their mastermind the next month or whatever, and right, what's next? And then we'll give them the next 5 steps, and they'll just go away that month and smash those 5 steps, because they're not actually trying to think of anything outside those 5 steps. But quite often we'll see that they'll be the ones who progress the quickest, because they're just literally seeing what's in front of them, smashing through it, and then finding the next challenge. They've all got the capability of doing it, but it's just they need different things to help them along. Now, I think the characteristic which ties them together, if they're going to be successful or not, is that tenacity and the drive and the attitude never to quit and just to keep going. And both sort of demographics of people can definitely have that. All demographics of people can have it. But as Lloyd said, if they haven't got that tenacity and drive to just keep smashing through the barriers and challenges, then they'll give up. And if you give up, then it doesn't matter. You're not going to succeed. And that's when we see people who are who perhaps that aren't successful in it.
Obviously, you guys, I'm assuming you've done lots of mindset and worked on your personal development. Is there anything that really that stuck out in your mind? Anything that you do on a daily basis that helps you be ready for what you're going to do and change? What's evolved your mindset over these years?
Who's doing that one?
You go first.
Oh, yeah.
So look, I think when we first started out, we were just really busy. I when I had my building company, I was kind of a bit of a busy fool, rushing around, trying to manage everything, trying to sort of be in control of everything. And I've learned to sort of step back from that and give our team, everything's about team and autonomy, and giving them the autonomy to sort of fail forward and learn themselves, and not trying to make every decision for them. And we're better off because of that, and our team's better off because of that. But we didn't do it in year 1 and 2. It was we got to grips with that first, and then certainly over the last 2 or 3 years, we've definitely moved a lot more onto our own health, fitness routines, and all of that kind of thing, and we're much better for it. We were pretty fat bastards a couple of years ago, weren't we? For the first 4 years of our journey, and
even the pictures you used to advertise this.
Yeah, I think the start of last year, 2018. We had a bit of a word with ourselves, and we're probably a couple of stone lighter, and we're very into sort of routines, especially morning routines. We have vision statements that we've written, and that's the sort of thing we do in our retreats. We go to Croatia, Bali, and teach people all the mindset side of things and all, the visionary side of it. We know sort of exactly where we are, and to be fair, we've probably reflected on that a little bit with the experience we've just gone through with COVID, as I'm sure many people are. But I'm still heavily onto getting up really early in the morning. I found CrossFit, so I exercise at least once, if not a couple of times a day, and that's sort of really good for clarity of mind and all that kind of stuff. And I think you start to realise that it's not just about getting fit or stronger or anything like that. It's fitness of the mind as well. Just the clarity, and for me, that couple of hours that early in the morning before things start getting busy and even the day heating up and all that kind of stuff, you get so much more productivity. And so we're sort of big advocates in that whole mind side of it now. Mindset.
Did you find it hard to get into a routine from not having anything?
Yeah, I think it's the same with anything. You've got to just get through the I was kind of thinking the word is the tiredness of trying to do things. It's like if you've got to get a habit, haven't you? You've got to form a habit, and you've got to just tell yourself, right, I'm doing this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, and then suddenly it becomes sort of second nature, and you think, well, actually, it's not that bad. I like waking up in the morning early. People just hate the idea of getting up early. Well, it's amazing. Like when you get up at 6 o'clock rather than 7 o'clock, you've saved an hour, you've made an hour. In that hour, like for me, for example, at 6 o'clock, I used to go to CrossFit when it was open, and with ANDI, and we used to just do a sort of a workout session there. And I'm driving home at sort of 7:05 when people are waking up, and I know I've already done a workout. So internally, it already makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So knowing that other people are getting up and kind of not wasting the hour, but just not doing anything with that hour, it does sort of drive in. Obviously, exercise has scientific reasons to do exercise as well, and it makes you feel good as well. But yeah, I've enjoyed that side of the routine, which has only come in for the last year at least. and kind of realizing that actually, yeah, doing that on a regular basis and being consistent with it gets results. A lot of people start for a week and 2 weeks and think, well, I haven't lost any weight yet, and then it's like, well, yeah, it kind of, you've got to just keep going, and then it's a long period of time that you see the results. So it's the same with developments as well. And a lot of people think they can get into developments overnight and they'll get a site next week, and it's maybe 6 months down the line until you actually get an offer accepted, which a lot of people, and I think social media is something to blame as well. People want instant results and instant feedback and instant rewards and things, where it's not like that in development. So
I got a couple of tips on that actually, on the whole routine side of it. So basically, I'll tell you how it started for me and how I kept myself on track, because you know, it really worked for me. So start of last year, I was probably about 17 stone at that point, you know, and that's not, you know, I'm quite a big guy, 6'2", broad shouldered and whatever, so I can kind of carry 17 stone. There's a lot of heavier people than that, but that's kind of it. That was at my limit where I was a bit like, look, you know, I'm not feeling too great about myself. So I decided that I think people get a bit hooked on sugary stuff and all that. You know, that's why they find it difficult to sustain these things. They sort of crave it and whatever. So I thought to myself, I came off the New Year and said, right, I did a 3-day fast, which, you know, not everyone has to do a 3-day fast, but fasting is really good for you, intermittent fasting, all that kind of stuff. You know, if you don't know about it, have a look into it. You don't have to do 3 days, but I wanted to get off the cravings of sugar. So I did 3 days. That put me in a positive mindset, and I felt good after myself quite quickly after 3 days. And then I just committed to doing, say, 10 days, you know, where, you know, I felt good and I wanted to keep that train going, if you like. And then I got that to, and once I'd done 10 days, I just did another 2 weeks. Once you've done a month, you start to actually physically see a difference and you feel really good about yourself. If you can be strict for a month, then I actually recorded a video for myself, like, of that journey over the month and how good I felt at that point, and that, you know, the results I'd got. Because I think the most important point that people need is a feedback loop. So you need start pictures. Nobody wants to take start pictures because they feel horrible about themselves at the start, but that's a real key benchmark, because that's how you were when you felt really crap, and that's how you looked, and you can document at that point how you felt at that point. And then if you can stick together for a month, you've broken the back of it, because then you can do a video and photos to say, actually, after a month, and a month's not that long, this is how I feel and this is how good I feel about myself. And I did myself literally like a 2-minute video, and the video, the point of it was for when I felt those cravings to come off the wagon, if you like, because everyone gets it. There's nobody who gets away with that. And the point was, I could watch that video then, and it was me telling myself, you know, don't eat the bloody biscuits that you want to eat or whatever else, because, you know, that's what got you there in the first place, and you're only going to feel crap in a day or two. And because I trust myself, because, you know, I know that I've worked hard for that to get to that point. Actually, I never fell off the wagon, and then you can update that, and, you know, within 2 or 3 months, I'd got to, you know, I'm sitting here now at 14.5 stone. That's, you know, 2.5 stone less than I was at the start of last year. But not only that, I'm, you know, because I work out every day, I'm, you know, physically much fitter. I'm a lot stronger. I'm just a completely different person to what I was. You know, and I'll never go back from that, because once you can sustain that routine for a decent period of time, and keep, you know, I track. I'm a lot further along with that now. I track macros, I track weight and all that kind of stuff. But I can look at what weight I was before I went to Bali last year, and, you know, what happened around that. So I've got that. It's really important to have that kind of feedback loop. But it starts with just literally chunking it down, having that 10 days and then that month, and then you can build from there.
Do you use an app or something to track that, like MyFitnessPal or something like that? Going off piece here, but
well, no, I think it's important. This is, again, the foundation of everything, isn't it? So I use MyFitnessPal to literally put down, you know, what you eat in a day, if you like, and then that gives you the macros of all that. But that does all the work for you, basically. But then I use really just a simple spreadsheet to put that data into, and then the good thing with that, though, once you've done that just for a few weeks, you can then, like I say, you can see your progress. And if you can see your progress, then you can, you know, it's easier not to fall off the wagon. Or if you do, because everyone has a couple of bad days, but then they compound it and say, well, I'll do it again next week or whatever. And then next week never comes. And before you know it, you're back to where you started, aren't you? And then it's too much hassle to start again. So nobody starts again. So, and then you just go around that sort of, that loop. Yeah. Oh, you're muted, Lloyd.
Yeah, I say every diet starts on a Monday.
Yeah, mine always starts tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes.
Yeah.
What about mindset? So is there any like books or audio books that have really resonated with you that's kind of been a bit of a light bulb moment, so to speak?
Yeah, we've been ever since we started business together, we've kind of helped each other with audibles and shared an Audible account, and I've read one and Andy's read the same thing, so we've always kind of learned together as well. The book that kind of sits in my head and my mind a lot, in a couple of them actually, is Mind Over Money by I've completely forgotten Claudia Hammond. Thank you. That's a great book, just in the psychology of money, and where one person thinks £100 is not a lot of money, another person thinks it is a lot of money, but it's all on the kind of perception of money as well, and it's really interesting read. The other one I really liked and found fascinating is Elon Musk, and the kind of the story that he went through, because he's gone through the challenges just like any business person, but I think a lot of people kind of see what people are doing now and they don't realize what they've been through or they've done. And I love reading kind of the how people have become who they are, because I like to see the struggles they've gone through, because it kind of makes us realize that we are the same. They're just what they've done is what we talked about earlier, and just kept going and been tenacious and not worried about the challenge, but sort of worried about how to solve it.
I've got a couple. So on that same sort of vein, well, I can't go without talking about David Goggins. I know he gets talked about a lot in the property world.
I love that. I did the audio book. I love it.
Yeah, no, it can't hurt me, David Goggins. That's one of the instrumental ones for both of us that gave us that attitude last year that kept us going as well. Absolutely brilliant. And also one that we really liked was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, wasn't it? Yeah, and he was the guy who set up Nike, basically, or Nike, however you want to say it. And again, those autobiographical sort of accounts of people who, all these people went through the same, just like Lloyd's just said, they all went through the same struggles and showed that tenacity and all that kind of stuff. Nobody's a success overnight. People see the end result, they don't see the struggle, and that's what we like to sort of. It just reminds you that that's definitely. Everybody goes through it. But in lockdown, actually, I've got into quite a lot of sort of the military style autobiographies as well. Just seeing all that military kind of the way they look at things, and again that feedback loop, and go on a mission and then debrief on it all and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've been getting into a few of those sorts of things.
You mentioned the Audible version of Goggins as well, so Can't Hurt Me is the book, but that was very much in a podcast style where they kind of interview and David talks to I can't think of the guy's name that narrates it, but that's had an influence on us as well, because we're launching the project management masterclass, which Andy and Nick are doing, and they're the build side to the business. But we said, well, let's do it like Goggins, let's do it like that, where it's more of a narrative podcast style, and Nick delivers the content.
I liked it.
Yeah, it's really good, and like everything we're doing has been influenced by the people, and this is what we want to try and do, and influence others to copy what we're doing.
Yeah. So while we're on a bit of like talking about personal stuff, what are your personal visions going forward? We'll talk about where you want WHITEBOX to go after, but what's the end goal for you two? Where do you want to get to?
One of my visions is to travel to every single country in the world. And I set it as a target like that I want to literally tick up every country off. I've got the scratch map to try and tell me where I've been. Even like random countries I want to go and visit, because I like, ever since I was a kid, I've been well traveled in terms of my parents took me to nice places as a kid, and I've always liked going away and seeing other cultures, and that's something I've always had a passion for. So for me, developments are great, they get you to where you want to be, but the rewarding part of it does allow you to do what you want to do. So things like traveling, for me, let's say, it's something that's up there. And the reasons we do retreats is because, again, it's kind of going somewhere away, and it's part of my why that I like to go out somewhere and go away somewhere. And if we can share that with other people as well, fantastic.
I think that I'd like to build another house. I mean, the house I built in 2012, but like I think that there's so many more things I want to do with that. But I think Lloyd yesterday did a video on YouTube, which just came out last night, of our 2019. It was his own. I didn't even know he'd done it until it came out. His own 10 sort of top 10 memories from last year, if you like, and there was a video for each one. And it really, when I watched it, it really hit home, how much we did last year. And I said to Lloyd earlier, actually, in one of our calls with some of our mentees, that it really, although we're developers and all that kind of thing, all of those memories were from what we think we'd done with the community. There were our summer parties, our retreats, our things, and it just makes you realise that the community that we've built, how much we enjoy it and how much we give. And I actually said to Lloyd earlier, people say to us, well, why do you train people? Like, if you're developers, why do you even bother, teaching people and training people? And what they don't understand is what we get personally from that community of people around us. The Property Developers Secrets at the time of recording this is 16,500 people, is it? Something like that. There's and they're all people around us. And we didn't have that when I was a carpenter working on my own in a van. I didn't have all that around me, and the opportunity that gives us to create those memories with a family and all that kind of things, that's just phenomenal. And I think that's what we really enjoy. I think that lockdown's probably simplified things for me a little bit, in the way that we've already got that around us, and all I want to do, I've really enjoyed this time in many ways, being at home and whatever else, and to add a bit more of that, going out and seeing our extended family, if you like. I don't think we need a lot more than that, really. We can just enjoy ourselves going through and carry on doing some sites like we do and whatever else. I think that life can be pretty simple, really.
And what about your business? So where do you see that? What's your plans, end goal? Do you want to go global? What's next for you guys in business?
I'd say we're already global. We've got people in New Zealand doing our training.
Hey!
So, yeah. Thanks to lockdown. So no, it's for me, the vision of WHITEBOX, it just came about kind of not accidentally, because we decided to train people, but we very much started by just showing people what we did to start with. Like the first site we did, how we did it. As we progressed, as we got more and more, we did a lot more training and we're teaching more people. And we've always had the whole philosophy that we want to make more people more money than they ever pay us. And as a business, if we can carry on doing that, and they pay us 10 grand, but they earn 100 grand from our training, that for us is perfect. That's what we want business to be about. For what we're looking at in WHITEBOX, I do want it to be a big training company. I do want to help people become developers. Whether that's us in a few years' time, don't know. But kind of the idea of it is we want to teach as long as we can, and we're enjoying it. We loved it. A couple of years ago, we decided maybe we could step down and step away from it, but we absolutely love it. So why would we stop doing something we absolutely love? And as Andy said, last year was one of the best years of my life, and it was because of the kind of training that we've done and the community we've built up. Why would I want to try and stop that right now? So yeah, at the moment, it's something that we want to continue.
You can see in the background of Lloyd there that that's some of the companies we've built over the last, as we said, it's only been 6 years. We've got yellow box, purple box, white box, green box, red box. It doesn't even show some of the others. We've also got what others? We've got black box. We've got blue SPVs, box. A special purpose vehicle. Yeah, blue box. We've got different companies for sites. I think there's about 20 at the minute. And that wasn't the vision. We didn't have that as a vision. It's just they've all just come about because there's been a need for them as we've gone along. So yeah, we're
it's the whole ready, fire, aim mentality, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're ready, go for it. Then you work out what you've done and how you can get around it.
I must admit, I say yes and try and work out how to do it after.
Yeah, well, we've very sort of early on last year, we had Brendan Hall, who was a around the world yachtsman, and he did the Clipper race. I can't remember the year, 2005, I think it was, or 2015. But he basically came up with the saying that does it make your boat go faster? Or him and a team had that, and we thought, well, we could relay that to the business. Like we used to be yes, we'll do that. And we became busy fools doing that. And then we thought, actually, no, let's only do the stuff that we believe will take our business and us to the next level. Like, will it make our business go faster? Will it reach? Can we reach our goals quicker by doing this? If it does, we'll do it. If it doesn't, we won't do it, or we'll park it for now.
It's funny you say that. I feel like this lockdown times made me think like that. Like, stop saying yes to all of these things, and it's taking you away from your end goal. So lockdown for me in that respect has been really good, because we've scrapped a lot of things that we were going to do and shouldn't really be doing, really, because it's not really a benefit to what the end goal we want to get to. So yeah, I think lockdown as well has had a bit of it opened a lot of people's eyes of what's really important. Like you were saying, Andy, you know, you're spending time with your family, and yeah, I think it's definitely a game changer, should I say.
Lockdown love, that's what it is.
Well, guys, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. It's been a fabulous interview and chatting to you. I really appreciate your time. I'll put your details in the podcast, so people who are listening online can get hold of you, find out more about your training, and connect with you on social media.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura.
Cool, thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.